This is Doug DeMuro, and today I'm going to talk about the cars that I still want to review. I have done, God no, it's been 13 years I've been on YouTube, 12 years, and I've done hundreds and hundreds of car reviews, thousands of videos, hundreds of car reviews. I've reviewed everything in theory, but that's not really true. There are still some cars out there that I still want to review, and so today I'm going to go through them. Before we get started, are you ready for your next cool car? Sell your enthusiast car on Cars and Bids. Trading in your car to dealers means you aren't getting market value for your car, leaving you with less cash for your next fun car. Just look at our recent sales of these cool cars compared to current trade-in value. This is a trade-in offer, and this was the Cars and Bids result. This is a trade-in offer, and this was the Cars and Bids result. This is the trade-in offer, and this is the Cars and Bids result. Get started now on carsandbids.com. Sell on Cars and Bids and join the best community to sell your enthusiast car. Okay, what are the cars that I still want to review? I've got 6 vehicles and or types of vehicles on this list. And I'm going to start with probably the most obvious one, which is new supercars. I love reviewing new supercars for an enormous number of reasons. New supercars do the best in terms of videos on my channel. So, you know, when a new McLaren or a new Ferrari or Lamborghini comes out, those videos always have really strong views, so that's one benefit. Number 2, I just love them. I think they're cool. I think that the supercar class specifically is innovating in a pretty crazy way right now, where you're getting some really unusual and really competitive kind of things going on. A lot of times the regular car class is the one that's sort of innovating, and supercars are, you know, old school V8 kind of things. The supercars right now are in this weird crossroads where it's like, well, should we go electric? Do we not go electric? Should we provide like weird gimmicks? There's a lot of automakers in the space at the moment. And so you're seeing a lot of like competition and a lot of cool stuff coming out. So, you know, the obvious ones from new Ferrari F80, the new Bugatti Tourbillon, the GMA T50, Pagani Utopia, the new Lamborghini Temerario, McLaren W1. There are a lot of new supercars. I'm into them. I think they're cool. The audience obviously is into them. The audience thinks they're cool. A lot of huge love for the new supercars. And of course, no surprise, I'm running a YouTube channel. It is a business. You want to get those views. That's a great scenario where the views also coincide with my personal interest. Like, I think the cars are cool as hell and I can get great views doing it. That's when I really enjoy my job, right? Like I really, when you can, that's like a grand slam home run, when you can really enjoy the video and you can get great views doing it. So new supercars are an obvious one. Next up, a couple of individual cars. Number 1, I really want to review a 4th generation Pontiac Firebird Ram Air WS6 Trans Am. I love and by the way, I love a lot of the muscle cars from this era, but I've already reviewed a lot of them. The Termi Mustang Cobra is one of my all-time favorites, but I reviewed my favorite version of that car, which is the Mistachrome convertible. A lot of people don't like the convertibles, but in Southern California, that motor with a drop top and Mistachrome is the coolest thing on the road, in my view. But I've never reviewed a 4th gen Camaro or Firebird. One of the reasons I like the 4th gen specifically, it was 92 to 02 were the model years. And one of the reasons I like it specifically is that it was their last, and honestly, all of the automakers' last attempt at kind of creating a fun, cool, new style, as opposed to going retro. So with the next-gen Camaro, with the next-gen Mustang, all these cars started to go back and look at previous designs and go retro, which is fine. The next Camaro, the Challenger, they were all great cars. But the 4th gen was like GM's last attempt to try to define the style of the segment for themselves. And as a kid growing up with those cars, I was 4 years old when that car came out. It canceled when I was 14. That was my childhood car. And as a kid growing up with those cars, I didn't think much of them. The auto reviewers told us they were bad cars. Which they were. They weren't built that well. They didn't handle that well. But over time, I've come to really appreciate the look, that like kind of aero front pointy look of the Camaro and the Firebird from that era. And I love the Camaro 35th anniversary, which had the white wheels and the orange stripes, but I like the WS6 Firebird even more. Now, One of the reasons I haven't reviewed one of these yet is because they're hard to find in California. This was a car that was popular in the Midwest and it was popular in the Southeast. And even then, a Survivor one 15 years later is hard to find. You'd see them occasionally when I lived in Georgia, but that was 10 years ago. And even then they were getting hard to find. And so they're pretty hard to find now. These days with cars like this, used cars like this, I only really review them if they're coming up for sale on Cars and Bids. And they do not pop up often in SoCal. If one does, I will make sure to review it. It is not worth shipping it from Tennessee. You know, the value of these cars is maybe 15 grand in good shape. But I just think that car was cheap speed. It was cool. It looked ridiculous. And as time has gone on, I think it's emblematic of the era and the way the era looked in kind of a cool way. And I really enjoy those cars. I've really fallen back in love with those cars. Another car I really want to review, another individual car I want to review is the Mercedes-Maybach G650 Landaulet. So when you ask people about the craziest G-Wagen, a lot of people will tell you it was the 6x6. They made a 6-wheel drive pickup truck. Totally crazy. Completely agree that is one of the craziest G-Wagons. I don't think it's the craziest. To me, the craziest G-Wagon was the 650 Landaulet, which was a half convertible lifted with portal axles and a V12. Remember, the G63 6x6 was a V8. It was the same V8 in the G63. But the G650 used a V12, still had the portal axles, and it didn't have 6 wheels, but it had a convertible top over only half of the car, which was the rear. So it was a chauffeur-driven vehicle with portal axles. I mean, the kind of thing that you would cook up in Dubai in a fever dream, and yet Mercedes-Benz manufactured it. Now, these weren't sold new in the United States, which goes to why I haven't reviewed one yet. Only a few were ever legally brought in, which you could legally bring them in under the show or display rule, which allows certain low-volume special cars to be imported to the United States. But no one has reached out to me with one, which is actually surprising because I also reviewed the 6x6, which was the pickup version. That was great. Did a show or display 6x6. I've done a lot of very special show or display cars, Mercedes-Benz CLK DTM, McLaren Speedtail, a lot of others. Never did get a Landaulet, and I really, really, really want to. That is absolutely one of the top cars on my list, especially as a person who owns a convertible G-Wagon. That is one of the top cars on my list that I would love to review. Okay, next up on my list of cool cars that I would love to review, we're getting back into more like categories of vehicle here, but the next category is weird but drivable concept cars. So concept cars online are kind of like video or blog death. If you write a post or make a video about concept cars, people don't read it. They generally think that concept cars are like low impact, never going to affect me, unless it is specifically like a very cool concept car that is very groundbreaking, permeates kind of into the culture, not just the car world, but like in the general culture. People start talking about it, and you think it might get into production. Other than that, concept cars are largely ignored, which is why a lot of automakers have completely stopped making them. But throughout the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s, concept cars were a big deal because they would help bring people to your stand at an auto show. So you came out with a ridiculous concept car that looked absurd, people would walk over, and then they would see the Dodge Neon sitting there, and they would say, oh, okay, that seems pretty cool. Despite the hatred that the viewing public has for concept cars, or at least the disinterest, I love concept cars. I absolutely love concept cars. I think they are incredibly cool. I can't really put my finger on why. I think it's because I'm a big fan of one-off and custom cars in general. And so concept cars have always had that kind of appeal to me because in today's world, you know, one-off cars are very uncommon. And so the idea of making a one-off type concept car from an automaker with an automaker support and their budget and their design team and their powertrains, etc., is pretty cool. And so even though concept cars are not really made that much anymore, and even though, again, people wouldn't really watch, I would love to film videos. Obviously, the best example for me and a car that I have personally adored and also at various points tried to purchase is the Cadillac CN, which was an absolutely amazing concept car about 20 years ago when you had automakers coming out with supercars, even in sort of a regular, Ford GT and the Audi R8
And the Cadillac CN was really, really, really cool. And that's a car I would love to film a video with. General Motors has told me that it is possible at some point in the future, so I would love to do that. But it's not just that. The Dodge Copperhead, the Ford GT90, the Chrysler Atlantic, like I could name hundreds of these cars. Presuming they're drivable, I would love, love, love to film videos with them. So that's always been something that, especially for someone who's into quirky, weird stuff, that's always been something that I've wanted to pursue, is videos with concept cars. And I would absolutely love to spend some time with them. I've actually asked automakers in the past, hey, can I film a video with, you know, I'm in contact with a lot of automaker people, and they'll say, hey, you want to come to this press launch? Yeah, okay, you know, I came, I talked to them at the press launch. Is there anything you need from us? Well, hey, I would love to film a video with an old concept car. And I've said that to a bunch of automaker people, and they generally don't. For a lot of reasons, I think. Number one, old concept cars aren't doing anything for them now. There's not really any benefit. Number two, there's liability risk. Number three, a lot of the cars, you know, because those cars weren't designed to be used on public roads. Number three, even if they run and drive, like they don't meet crash safety regulations, they were intended to get people to an auto show stand. Number three, a lot of them haven't been driven in years, right? Like once the life of a concept car is over, a lot of the automakers are just kind of done. And I wish they would sell the cars to the public, to guys like me who would love to have one of those. I'm not really trying to buy any cars right now, but if the Cadillac CN was offered to me, I'm having that conversation. Anyway, so that's my view. That's another category of cars that I would really, really love to spend some time poking around as a lover of quirky cars. Okay, on that subject, lover of quirky cars I'd love to review. Another big one, Sultan of Brunei cars. Obviously, by now, the story is incredibly well known, but in the 90s, the Sultan of Brunei had basically infinite money, and they decided, the Sultan and his brother, they decided to just start commissioning exotic cars from exotic car automakers, including Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, everyone they could find, Bugatti, Land Rover, Bentley and Rolls-Royce, Aston Martin, and I would love to get in on that. Like, to see some of these individually commissioned. Like if I had infinite money, that's what I would do. I would not go and buy a 296 or an SF90XX. I would call Ferrari and say, I want something special. Like what can we do that is special and different? And they did that on a crazy scale. There's probably 50 cars that they have that weren't ever available to human beings aside from them. And that would be an amazing thing. Again, as someone who's into quirks and features, reviewing the Jaguar XJ220 is cool. Reviewing the Pininfarina rebodied XJ220 that is only 3 in the world and they have all 3, that would be really cool. And I would absolutely love, love, love to spend some time filming videos with the Sultan of Brunei's cars. It would be an unbelievable fantasy of mine as someone who has watched from the sidelines as the Bentley Java and the Bentley Dominator and all these cars have existed and they're behind closed doors and they're not shown to the public, and so many car enthusiasts want to experience those cars. It would be cool to bring that experience to people and to personally experience it for myself as a guy who is into very quirky cars from that era. And finally, the last group of cars that I really still want to review, and the group of cars whose review videos I still enjoy the most, survivor cars from the 80s and 90s. These videos don't do well. It's actually kind of funny because I'll post a video of a really expensive car and people will be like, I remember when I used to review cheap cars. Actually, I review a lot of cheap cars. If you look at the last 20, 30, 40 videos, half of them are cars that are not only cheap, but in some cases like the Dodge Caravan and the original Cadillac Escalade, some of them are really cheap, like 10 grand or less. But people don't watch them. Those videos people just don't watch. Nonetheless, they are generally my favorite videos to make. I love getting into an 80s car that is a survivor, a car that was preserved and didn't deserve to be. And I'm not really sure why I enjoy it so much. I think part of it is that I just love to see, like, supercars are cool, but there's so much documentation about the Ferrari F40. It is cool to get into a original Dodge Caravan and see how they solved problems back then that needed to be solved on a mass market scale. We know now about folding cup holders and removable storage trays and power ports, but what was the problem they were solving in 1985? You know, that to me is like the interesting thing about those cars. And digital dashes that they thought were going to take over, and the Buick Riata, and the cars from that era that would talk to you, like Nissans. I did an 80s Maxwell once that would talk to you.
Lights are on.
Like cars like that to me are just so interesting when you're able to look at it from a modern lens. And I think I would review quite a few more of those cars if people watch the videos. We sell them on Cars and Bids. They do not bring a lot of money and they do not bring a lot of views. And so I have to kind of, with my head of content and with our investors, I have to kind of temper this like, hey, I'll review the Caravan this month, but don't worry, I've got other cool stuff coming, because they're sitting there like, why would you review a car that only gets 150,000 views? It's pathetic. And they're right. But from a personal, and I agree. I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but from a personal level, I do love reviewing those cars, and I probably always will. What's an 80s Corolla like? I reviewed a 90s Camry at one point. There was nothing quirky about it, but that in itself was kind of quirky because it showed you how Toyota was trying to go completely mainstream and not offend anybody in order to keep breaking into the midsize sedan segment, which was so popular at the time. It's very interesting to see these cars and see how they roll and see what they're doing and the original Bravada and all these things. So I personally love those cars, even though I know a lot of the viewers don't, even though my investors don't, even though the buyers on Cars and Bids don't pay much for them. Like they're not that valued in the community. But I think they're cool. And I have a suspicion that in 40 years, if my videos have survived in any capacity, I have a suspicion that those videos, there will be some interest in those videos. People watching, hey, what was it like, 40 years from now, those cars are 30 years old already. What was it like 75 years ago? What were cars like? If you could watch a video from the 50s talking about a car from 1920, that would be cool. And I think in the future, we're going to have that experience. So anyway, I would love to review more old school Survivor cars, and I try to whenever good ones come up on Cars and Bids that are local. But there you go. Those are the cars that I still want to review. I've reviewed a ton of cars. There are still a ton more cars to review, thousands and thousands. Even if I stopped doing old cars and just focus on new cars, I would never run out of cars. But I do like the ones on this list, and they're always sort of in my mind. I got to do them, and I got to do them soon. And those are my favorites.